This year, February, this year, Feb, we documented how many killings? 18 killings in 28 days.
Welcome to Straight Talk, where we engage Kenya's brightest minds in the issues facing our nation. I'm your host, Yvonne Chege. This episode, we're joined by Wanjira Wanjiru. She's Kenya's social justice activist, the creator and co-founder of Mathare Social Justice Center. She's a political activist and generally somebody who's very engaged in the issues going on in our country. And we're so blessed to have her on this episode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You have a motto that is so pure. It says, when we lose our fear, they lose their power. Tell me what that motto is about.
When we lose our fear, they lose their power. It's just a factual truth. And oftentimes I wonder why people just don't lose their fear. We are always complaining about the corruption in this country, the police brutality in this country, the injustices in this country. We are very good at expressing our dissatisfaction with the status quo and what's going on. And I always say, when we just come together, everybody that's disgruntled, the other side has no power over us.
So fear keeps you stifled. It keeps you enslaved.
Exactly. And it's only because we have fear that oppression keeps repeating itself. It's a tool of the oppressor.
Does that then lend towards your motivation towards getting into activism?
I got into activism sort of by lived experience. I was very young at the time. I just finished high school. I had experienced police brutality, of course, growing up in Mathare, but my elder brother was also killed by police. But when I got older is when I began to see it as a systemic issue. And now that made me feel like we cannot normalize this, especially as a community. It was mostly happening in informal settlements. And now we started challenging it, not from a point of fear, but from a point of power as sovereign citizens of this country. Putting aside that we come from a poor neighborhood, it's just that we are Kenyans, we are sovereign citizens, and this cannot be allowed to continue to happen.
Your older brother was killed by police. Was there any retribution or justice served in that instance?
May his soul rest in peace. No, there wasn't. It was written that he was killed by Pangani police during the 2007-2008 post-election violence. And during that time, there's a lot that was happening in the country. There was also the cleansing of young people. So my mom never got to put up a case. And a lot of women are following that trajectory, given how long the judiciary takes to deal with these issues. So it becomes like a reminder of the wounds the government inflicted on you by killing your child every time there's a court case. And it drags on year after year after year. So most parents are choosing to just accept that their child is gone and leave it at that.
And many people do that in Kenya. There's very many instances, especially with the protests that happened 2 years ago. People who have been killed by stray bullets within protests, and there's no justice that has occurred. As an activist, it must seem very helpless.
I think this is where my motto comes in. We see a police kill a young man. We know that this policeman has surely, suddenly killed this young man. Yet we want to run to the judiciary or the court system that will take forever to deliver justice. It just doesn't make sense to me. Sorry. We have to deal with these people immediately so that it becomes a lesson to every other policeman.
What is that? What is the dealing immediately from your perspective?
What do you think I mean?
It's for you to suggest.
An eye for an eye, a son for a son. Yeah.
Okay, let's pivot. You grew up in Madare. You mentioned one instance here, a very traumatizing one, your brother being killed by police. I'm sure prior to that, there were other instances that motivated you into getting into activism. Can you share that with us, please?
I think it's realizing that there's nobody from outside of our community that's going to come and bring the change that we want. Mm-hmm. It's recognizing that poverty is manufactured and systemically entrenched. It is not natural. Mm-hmm. It is not an act of fate. It is not laziness. It's a political choice.
Poverty is manufactured.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know this because I see how hard people work in these informal settlements.
And the political elite benefit of poverty.
I will give you a real example.
Okay.
During the kazi kwa vijana, mm-hmm. when the government was paying young people to clean the environment, they were being paid weekly. My mom has a shop in Mathare. So young people would take a loan. We had a book. You come, you take things. The Monday, Tuesday, umechukua mkate, maziwa, nini. And then on Saturday, when you've been paid, you come and clear the loan. Mm. This was such a perfect time in Mathare. Mm. I was still a human rights monitor at MSJC. And during this period when we had kazi kwa vijana, we documented 0 cases of police brutality. This means that no young men were snatching phones or handbags. Because they were
engaged, they were occupied,
they were working,
and being paid and able to provide. Yes.
Ghafla bin vu, NYS scandal happened, and all those billions were stolen by the political elite.
NYS 1.
NYS 1.
Okay.
And then kazi kwa vijana ikaisha. Mm. It ended in January, I remember. February, that has 28 days, we documented 14 cases of young men who've been killed by police. So we are coming from a transitional period where people were being taken care of by the government. They were having, even if little, they were having something to go by weekly. And now that social protection has been taken away. And look at how these people are being treated. This is a poor man. He steals a handbag, he pays with his life. He steals a phone, he pays with his life. This is a politician. He steals billions of monies and goes to become governor. Why do we have such an unequal application of the law?
Or he's rewarded, yes. The more you steal, the more you're rewarded.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you see how unequal it is. You see how the system is. You see how systemic it is. You see how intentional it is. You see how political it is. They are not accidents of fate. Mm-hmm. They are political choices. It's systemic. And I argue that it must be systemically uprooted, just as it has been systemically entrenched.
We'll get to that. Uprooting corruption, because it's a very difficult thing. When somebody begins, right, especially someone beginning early within their political career, corruption is a menace, right? But the more you grow, the more opportunities you find, the more your principles might change, right? Because the incentive might be more. How do you fight that? If you were to be elected, for example, 2027 MCA, and somebody comes to you, I'll give you 300,000 to do this that is illegal. How likely are you to not take the money?
300,000 is a drop in the ocean.
Oh.
But anyway, my point would be that it's not enough for just me as an individual to be in a political office. It is enough for like-minded individuals to occupy these political spaces, which is why I am vouching and pushing for the Gen Zs to occupy these political spaces so that these ideas that we have and are speaking about outside of the political space, we can go there and implement them together. Because what happens is you go there and you are overpowered, outnumbered, you're alone, you're isolated. It just becomes very difficult. But when we go there as young people with this mindset, with these ideologies, with these plans, I think it's going to be more realistic to deal with corruption. I sense this hopelessness about corruption. Do you know that in China they kill corrupt officials? So again, political choices.
It's political choices, but also political will as well, right? In China, they had a law and there was a general will, from what I understand, to generally curb the vice. In Kenya, I'm not sure.
Then it has to be the political will of the people. We have to decide, what do we do with corrupt officials? Because it's not fair that we pay all of these taxes and receive zero social protection services, even education. It's just not fair that thousands of Kenyan students are at home because the government cannot give these people education.
You're right.
Parents cannot afford it. It's Kenyans should be so angry right now. Like, what do you mean? What do our taxes do? Why are doctors striking? What do these taxes do?
Well, many people would say then, right, our power as an electorate comes from the ballot, right? You go to the polls every 5 years and you choose the people you elect. If you elect a corrupt individual, a person who is morally lacking, then you kind of should expect what comes to you. And you can see it now happening in Uganda, right? There's alleged elections. We've seen ballot rigging. We've seen ballot stuffing. We've seen heavy police presence. Internet shut down as well. How optimistic are you about the Ugandan election?
It was a lie, just like the Tanzanian election. And Kenyans are beginning to feel like elections are probably a lie. And I don't even like the idea of waiting every 5 years to decide the trajectory of our lives, because what's happening now? What's happening now, right now, is so bad. We should be able to hold our leaders. I mean, the whole country came out in 2024 to say we do not want this kind of leadership.
Does democracy in East Africa exist?
No.
No? Even in Kenya? I think we like to think
so.
in Kenya we are very mature and evolved. Do we have democracy in Kenya? As we look at our neighbors and judge very sternly what our neighbors are doing.
That makes me want to think, because when we look at 2002, there was democracy. Democracy happened in this country. We saw Kenyans come together and decide that Daniel Arap Moi is no longer going to be the president of this country. And I think it was the first serious uprising by the Kenyan people, which demonstrated. Do you remember?
2002, yes.
2002, yeah. You remember when
Yes.
everybody rallied behind Kibaki and Moi was defeated after a 24-year dictatorship.
So you're hoping we kind of have that kind of moment next
we are gonna
year.
have to have that
Yes.
in 2027.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna have to all rally behind one presidential candidate. We are gonna have to have separate tallying for votes. It's not going to be just IEBC. We do not trust IEBC for obvious reasons. We are gonna have to have community protection, because we know that there is high likelihood for violence. We've heard that violence is also being organized here and there. We're going to have to defend the Kenyan democracy as we know it, or lose it altogether. I don't like to be pessimistic.
Or lose it altogether.
Yeah, it's a really catch-22.
What makes you say you have no trust in IEBC? What has given you any kind of proof that they won't be able to hold a credible election?
One, it's because what has happened when they have dared to. We remember Chris Msando, he was murdered for daring to say the truth about the elections. Two is how the previous elections were handled. The IBC commissioners were split. We had those who were for and those who were against the election results. Three, they're just not doing enough for voter registration and they're not doing their bit as a commission, as an electoral commission. Other civil society organizations have to take up this role and responsibility. So there's just not enough. Also there are utterances recently that the 2027 elections are likely to be, ziko na uwezekano zinaweza kuwa. Sasa wewe ni electoral commission, ukiambia Wakenya zinaweza kuwa rigged, unatushow tunakutrust aje kukari hizi elections?
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So there's and a lot of people are saying Kenyans should stop kidding themselves that they're going to remove Ruto by the ballot.
So there's voter apathy.
There
right?
is.
Many people don't want to
engage in those shenanigans.
In the shenanigans, the long lines, all of the things that will come along with going to vote. But then you ask yourself, then does democracy really exist? Yeah, what is the alternative?
You see, Yvonne, after what happened in Tanzania and what happened in Uganda, you cannot blame Kenyans for just being, oh my God.
Yeah, why would I do it? What's the point? Someone's going to shoot at me for no reason because I went to cast my vote. Why would I do it?
Because this is your country and you love it and you gotta protect it.
Otherwise, what's the alternative?
Another round of dictatorship?
Or we just continue with life. You know, sometimes people are like, you know what, if I can go to work in the morning, pay my school fees, see my husband, have a soft life, why would I bother with this business called politics and voting and elections? What objective does it serve to me as a person?
Because that's an illusion that people put themselves in. It could crumble in a minute with bad leadership. And we've seen it happen in other countries. Why people should care about elections is because it's very important who's driving the politics in your country. Because politics affect every aspect of our lives, even the hospitals we go to, the schools our kids go to. Our priorities as a country, you would say, are so misplaced. Who needs a stadium when hospitals cannot care for the populace?
Good point.
Our monies are being spent so carelessly and being said that they are so scarce, yet we see extravagance. If we keep complaining about these things and do nothing about it, then it's really, it's on us. We have to be so angry in 2027. We have to be so united in 2027. We have to be so serious about this country, fiercely so, that the political elite are as afraid as they were in 2024 July. We have to be clear who owns Kenya. Is it these politicians or the people of Kenya? That's the big question in 2027. Kenya ni ya nani?
I think it's interesting. You have great points. You're saying we have to be angry. We have to be united. We have to be clear, right?
And organized.
And organized.
I better add that.
Organized as well.
Yeah.
Angry, we do very well. Anywhere you go, in the first 4 years before an election cycle, everyone is angry. United is where the challenge comes in. Year 5, somehow, tribe comes in, areas come in, Mtuako syndrome comes in, and all of a sudden, a guy who's been swindling your funds for 5 years gets re-elected for no reason, absolutely. How do we change that mentality?
I think the Gen Zs have already changed sisi kisisi sidhani tuko na hiyo shida ya tribe, because it really doesn't make sense. My Uber driver this morning was telling me how the Luya tribe has 28 sub-tribes, Maragoli, and how it's so difficult to have just one person be the flag bearer. And in my head, I was just like, where is that bearing in present day politics? What does it matter if you're Maragoli or Bukusu or I don't know the sub-tribes, but those things are so irrelevant. We are pushing for issue-based politics. Can you deliver education for Kenyans? Can you deliver healthcare? Can you deliver a higher quality of life? Can you implement the Constitution of Kenya 2010? Those are the issues we should be talking about. And we have seen that tribe is really a divide and rule tactic that maybe has worked over the years, but now we're just like, it doesn't matter who is president. It doesn't matter what tribe you come from. It matters who is president. It doesn't matter what tribe you're coming from. What matters is the kind of politics you're bringing to our country. Are you advancing our lives or regressing our lives?
Is it a bad thing to want to identify? Because I'm not tribalist, but I understand where it comes from. I want to identify with the person I vote for. And I would like them to look like me, to sound like me, to speak my language. That's not a bad thing.
The bad thing is it just doesn't matter if I speak like you, if I look like you, if my last name matches yours. What matters is, do you have the same vision I have for this country? If I put you in a position of leadership, are you going to drive us forward? Because think about it, Yvonne. It really doesn't matter who. Let me give you a perfect example.
Yes.
When Kenya gained independence in 1963, Jomo Kenyatta became the first president of this country. His tribesmen, a majority of them, fought for land and freedom, right? Do you know what Kenyatta did to these people?
What
Did he do? Something that we will never forgive him for, and future generations of this country. He told the British they could stay. Like you, they have our land. Told them you can stay. He bombed the freedom fighters who said, we are not leaving the forest without the land, because the fight was not for you to become president. It was for us to get back our land, which we do not have, because you've told the Muzungus they can stay and keep our land. So he betrayed people who speak like him, people who look like him, people who have names that are similar, his kinsmen. So it's not really about identity. Let's have identities of values. I identify with you because you share my values of integrity, of a corrupt-free country, of a country that is able to take care of healthcare for its people, education for its students. We share in these values, and then it becomes easier to unify around these values, because when we say we identify with tribes, can you imagine the fragmentation that would cause? Already we have 42 tribes. There are sub-tribes within these other tribes. So if everybody is identifying with their tribes, it will cause further fragmentation. And the goal for 2027 is unity. So on what basis can we unite? That we do not want a Kenya where young people are killed for voicing that they want an end to corruption, that they want a parliament that works for the people and not the president, that they want this finance bill to be kicked out. Do you get me?
No, I understand. You're saying despite, or not despite, we can all be different. We can all have our different languages, tribes, cultures.
Yes.
But we should unite and recognize that Kenya is uniting in terms of values, right?
Yeah.
Unity, justice, peace, what
Yes.
the national anthem speaks of.
Yes.
Right? Like a beautiful Kenya.
And
a
even
magical Kenya.
I want to shout out the cultural space, the entertainment space, because they're bringing this diversity and the beauty of Kenya in song. Like you'll hear a Luo artist has collaborated with a Kikuyu artist, or a Swahili mtu anaimba sheng alafu ana integrate kijaka, and everybody else is vibing to that, like just bringing the beauty of our diversity, and that's so cute. I'm so glad we have other different tribes in this country. It's not just Kikuyus or Luos or Kales. I'm so glad we have all of these diversities, because then that brings the beauty of Kenya as a whole. I'm able to have Luo sisters. I'm able to have, it's so cute. But it doesn't dictate our politics. Our politics are dictated by our shared vision for our country, because now we're brothers and sisters. Now we are allies. Now we're building something together for ourselves and for posterity.
I think you're highlighting also that maybe politicians maybe utilize our tribe to
divide and rule.
Divide us. And we live as Kenyans very happily with one another as neighbors and brothers and friends, other than on the 1 year in which we have an election.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. You are a co-founder of the Mathare Social Justice Center.
Yes.
When did you come around to doing that?
I was 19. That was in 2015, just after high school.
What was the objective of this project?
To end the normalization of police brutality in Mathare, to awaken the political consciousness of the people of Mathare to demand social justice. That is why it's Mathare Social Justice Center. So social justice is a constitutional right, and it's those things we are talking about. Healthcare. Our constitution says we have the highest attainable standard of healthcare. Highest. Yvonne, highest. Like unafaa unaingia hosi hivi.
Yes.
You get the highest attainable standard of healthcare.
Yes.
Like that's a constitutional right. It's not utopia. It's not a crazy demand.
It might be a bit of utopia, but yes.
The amount of money these guys spend on nonsense.
But you see, you're saying that Kenya can be utopia. We can, with the right objectives and political leadership, we can create utopia right here where we live.
Yeah. Exactly. With the right leaders, with the right mechanisms for if you deviate from this collective path that we are on, you're going to have to face consequences, which I think is why China is so successful, because it doesn't matter who you are. If you steal our resources, you pay with your life. People should be so afraid about stealing our resources from our collective fund, because that's not there. That's not there. People just iba, and it's sort of being like a culture, like everybody knows, like this is how things are in Kenya. I think for us as Gen Zs, as young people, we are like, we totally cannot normalize this, because if we continue going down the hill, it's just gonna get worse and worse. I mean, we had free primary education. Free. It was a crime to not take your child to school. You'd be hunted down by the area chief. Mbona hujapeleka mtoto shule? Right now, education is so expensive. School uniform alone is like what? 30,000. Uniform ya mtoto haujalipa school fees. And this is a couple of years after Kibaki. So if we continue going on this trajectory, and life is supposed to get better as the years go by, I think that is the natural trajectory of life. So we can see that it's getting worse, which is why we are fighting so hard that this regression stops as soon as possible, and we start walking on the right path.
And the regression is in every policy. I think one of the things for Mathare Social Justice Center is police brutality. But we've seen over the past even just 3-4 years, the increase of extrajudicial killings, increase of police brutality, increase of just a lot of
brutality,
brutality
and,
and state-sanctioned violence. How are you guys going to proceed with this current trend?
We have published a report which is titled the Who is Next report. Our theatre team, the Social Justice Centre's Travelling Theatre, is working on a film. But now it really becomes a question for Kenya. IPOA is not working, has not worked for it's supposed to be the body that deals with police excesses. I also have to mention that we have the most notorious killer cop in court. We have an ongoing case with killer cop, Ahmed Rashid. I think the whole country saw him shoot the two boys from Isili when they had their hands up in surrender. But that's minute compared to the Gen Z killings that happened.
During the protest.
Compared to the Gen Z killings that happened in 2024, the abductions. I mean, it's no longer a secret.
And there's no drive towards any public inquiry, police inquiry.
There are those, but you see, with the current regime, we're not going to get anywhere with that.
No desire
We've been going
towards
to court.
justice.
I've been going for the case of Rex Masai. I've been going when Rashid has a mention in court. This was in 2017 when the two boys were shot in Italy. It's 2026. We're still in court. So what change are you hoping for? Also, it's individual cases. This is something that requires systemic change because it's one killer cop here, one killer cop there, one killer cop there. But it doesn't mean that if you put this one in jail, you're going to reform the system. I think we need to abolish the current police system and start from scratch. How we recruit police, how we train police, because I don't think they have a patriotic training. They have a training to clobber and respect orders. And we saw, you remember that policeman who alitupatia gas, ikampaswa mkono. He didn't even have insurance. He was acting on orders. And the other policeman who shot on Gen Zs and killed his own brother. Yeah. It's so crazy. These things are ridiculous. I think future historians will be looking at some of the things that were happening in this country in the present time, and they would just be, this was so...
It's possible, yes, to highlight the indiscretions and the poor behavior of police forces. Absolutely, right? But there might be other factors involved as well. There are other factors involved as well.
Yvonne, do you remember when Albert Ojwang was killed and Kenyans marched and demanded that action is taken? And now we are talking about a promotion for this person who is said to have murdered Ojwang. So, and let's remember where police originated from. Here in Kenya, it was to protect the interests of the British against the natives, which is us now, the people. So they have, my grandmother was telling me about when she was a baby, when she was like 6, 7, there were this sort of police. It wasn't officially police. They were called Sari. They used to look for people who have not gone to do communal work, which was digging trenches, which is now dividing the constituencies. And they were so violent. She told me how her dad was beaten by those Sari guys when they came to their hut and found that he was home. He was sick. My great-grandmother had gone to the communal work, but my grandfather
couldn't go. He was ill.
And the response to my great-grandfather was alipigwa na rungu akafaint. My grandmother thought he had died, and she just started crying and throwing herself over him. And in my head, I was like, this is when my grandmother was a child. She's now a grandmother. And it's now us who are still fighting the same demon And it's now gotten even worse because now they're killing people point blank. Like that policeman who's been arrested because he shot somebody's child like this, like it's a chicken.
So you're saying, again, the motive of the police isn't necessarily to enforce security, it is to enforce the will of the upper class.
Yeah.
But how do you change that? You see,
demolish,
because
abolish,
you can't,
defund.
You really can't
You
abolish
can.
the police.
We can abolish the police, and not to abolish and have no protection. It's to abolish so that we can rebuild the kind of police system that we want for ourselves. And of course, why you feel like it's an impossibility is because not with this current regime, because this is not a regime for the people. It is a regime for the anti-people. So when we have a people's regime, it will be so automatic
if we
abolish the police.
If we had a people's regime, would we have to abolish the police? Because then the police would ultimately, you know how they say the head reflects the neck or the neck reflects the head, right? Perhaps right now the police operates based on what the leadership is demonstrating. If we had leadership that said, we are for the people, can we then try and reform the police in a manner that works for the Kenyan people?
For the past 2-3 decades, it's been talks of police reforms.
So the trust is completely eroded.
We cannot reform a police force that is used to brutalize Kenyans and get away with it. That is used to steal from Kenyans and get away with it. Police stations are now extortion dens. Ukishikwa utoki hivo, unatoa do, ndio unatoka. They now abolish the police. So we rebuild. We need to start afresh. Yeah. I have, and I'm not the only one who had. Do you know, how do you, at now you've become good, you have reformed, you've been killing people, you've been stealing from people. Now you want to tell us you have reformed, now we trust you with our lives.
You can't reform a gang.
You cannot.
You cannot legalize a gang.
You cannot.
And they have been operating like gangs, allegedly.
Ni system ya majambazi, wote. Hakuna kuwa reform, ni kuiabolish, tuanze tena.
Okay, you speak like you have political aspirations. Do you have ideas about 2027, the Kenyan elections?
Did I speak like I have political aspirations? Okay. I just want better for this country. I feel like it's not something out of reach. It's something that's very possible. And I will be contesting for a member of county assembly in Mathare constituency. I'd initially wanted to go for member of parliament. But resources and...
It must be very challenging, especially within Nairobi. The amount of money you need to run.
And you see, that's the other thing. Why do we have to have money politics? It keeps good candidates away. Why are our politics money politics? Like ukisimama, lazima uanze kupiga hesabu ya do.
From the beginning.
From the beginning.
Yes.
So it's problematic that our politics are money politics and not issue-based politics and not conversational politics about how we're going to advance collectively. And I think that's one of the things that need to change as well. Because a politician will tell you, and I've seen and I've heard in my constituency, say, nilinunua kura yako, sawa, si nilikupea do, tuonane after 5 years. Mm-hmm. So this money takes away your voice to hold them accountable. It shouldn't, of course it shouldn't, but the money politics is one of the things that even perpetuates corruption, because when you are there in a position of leadership, you start accumulating money in preparation for the next election. Mm-hmm. You start stealing to give people.
Or you have to recoup your money. You've spent so much of your own money.
Let me tell you a sad story.
Yeah.
In my constituency, hospital ward, there was a lady called Susan. I was still in high school when she was vying, but it was just when this MCA thing started. It was the first time we were vying for, we were voting for a member of county assembly. And Susan took loans. And she was so confident. She spent all her savings that she was going to win. And then Susan did not win. She got so sick, so stressed. She died within a period of 2 months after the results. She was so, like, her whole life just was so messed up by how that went. She couldn't believe that she could put her everything into this course. She could take loans, and then she doesn't get the money. So this money politics.
As MCA, how do you change that? How does that change? Because that's something everyone who vies, there isn't a person I haven't spoken to who vies for public office that doesn't complain how much money you have to spend. It is a common denominator with anyone who wants to run. But somehow that's something that has never changed. There's never a legislation cap on how much people spend on political campaigns. And nobody seems to want to do anything about the fact that the amount of money you spend for an election is exorbitant. It's wrong.
Yeah, I don't intend to give people money to vote for me. That's for one. And I think that's going to be interesting. So I'll also be documenting myself during the campaign period.
What about handouts?
Yeah, that is handouts.
T-shirts, none of that.
What I intend to do for my campaign, there are those hesabus you must have. You must have hesabu for your security. You must have hesabu for your team. You can't come and spend a whole day campaigning for me and then you're just going back home. I have to figure out how you get home. I have to figure out what you're going to eat that day because you are essentially working. So there are those hesabus. Ni lazima ukuwe nazo. But then these hesabus of giving people money is not something that I would encourage people to do, especially the young people that are vying. We need to be the generation that does away with that kind of politics. Vote for me because you believe in me. And our people are people who are looking for hope. Raila didn't give people to go to his rallies because they believed he would deliver hope for them, even if he didn't. But it is believing, what can you really do for us? I think the people who give money are people who have nothing else to give other than money so that you can vote for them. And I think also money politics locks out the people who would otherwise take this country forward, but they don't have money. So politics becomes a game of the wealthy.
I've always said, though, as well, if someone is handing out money,
take it.
Take it. I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely. The likelihood is it's taxpayers' money, right? But it shouldn't dictate where you tick on the day in which you need to do what you need to do.
That's usually the problem. Our people are so loyal. If they take your money, they're going to vote for you because they feel like Mungu anawaona. They feel like also the fact that umewapea hido, like you are working for this seat, like you really want it. I think that's the translation. But now our civic and political education should be, and especially people who are already holding political seats, that these are our taxes. Please take all this money. We need to have, that's the unity I was talking about, is also unity of action. When these people come with campaign monies, should we take this money? Absolutely. Because these are our taxes. But then how are we voting? We need to decide, tulikuwa tunasema a system overhaul. Fagia wote. Tunafaa tufagie kila mtu mwenye alikuwa. Kwa hiyo, bunge mwenye alivote yes. Kwa hiyo finance bill. People should not be so forgiving. People should not be so forgetful. It really still is people versus those guys. It still is. And I think right now they've gotten so comfortable because they think people have gotten so laxed and people have forgotten. But I promise you, people have not forgotten. People still hold as much anger. And I think 2027 will be the battlefield, really, of... so who takes Kenya?
So you're saying, and Mathare Social Justice Center...
Yeah.
is also involved in a lot of community building and civic education as well.
Yeah.
And that must be part of what you're teaching as well.
Yeah.
Like your vote, regardless
Yeah.
of whether someone gives you money or oil or something in terms of encouraging the way in which you vote, doesn't mean that when you get into that sacred ballot that you go along with what
Yes.
they did.
Now we are teaching political education. There's a difference between civic education and political education.
Okay.
Political education has an in-depth analysis of our politics, and especially now for us who are mostly localized at Mathare, which is the same as in Kibera, as in Kayole, as in especially with all of these social justice centers that are everywhere and doing the exact same thing we're doing in Mathare. Mukuru Justice Center will have conversations about housing, for example. Yesterday we saw that their houses were being demolished. A government that demolishes your houses without an alternative is not a government that deserves your presence even, let alone your vote. Like, that's an enemy of the people. So MSJC is conducting community dialogues where we're having very honest conversations about the kind of politics we have in our country and especially in our community. If you remember, it is in our community that we have the gunzes. It is in our communities that we have people who are hired as political goons, yeah? So we have a conversation about that. Like, let's talk about, and we know those people, some of them. Let's talk about your role as a gunzi and how it impacts your life long term.
How do you curb that? That's crazy. So you know people who are involved within the gooning in protests and whatnot and are paid to cause chaos. How do you stop people from doing something like that?
During the protest last year, I saw some of our community members. When we were protesting, they were having the marungus. And so after some time, of course, we met in the community and I was like, hey, nilikuona kama gunzi. What was that about? Wale kwanza mimi nilikuwa haso. Hiyo siku tulikuwa tumeambiwa tunajengwa bombili na unajua lazima tushughulikie tumbo kwanza. It's nothing personal. Mimi nilikuwa tu
biashara.
Mimi nilikuwa tu hustle. So then we have a dialogue about this hustle. That is, I think, the biggest challenge about that group and mindset is they just see now. They are not seeing long term. They're not seeing how this impacts even us as just
everyone.
Yeah. It's short-sighted. It's leo niko na food. Leo niko na form.
I've paid my bills. I've bought my power.
First of all, you
my
show them
stomach
how
is
this
fed.
is such kidogo money. You're going to protect billionaires who are stealing our resources for bob moja bombili.
How much?
And at the same
how
time,
much do you know?
your life.
How much would someone like that be paid?
Like
on average?
1,000 or 2,000. It's not much. It's nimbokaya hiyo siku, which is really short-sighted.
Pennies, yes.
I mean, it's not worth it. The message is, it's just not worth it. If you want to fight for anybody, man, just fight for yourself.
Well, for your country,
Fight
for your principles,
people.
for your family.
Fight for your community.
Not for an entitled politician who will never remember you.
And you know the other thing, Yvonne, is you see how vulnerable those politicians are if the gunzis are taken away from them. If the political goons they mobilize and pay are taken away from them, if these people are given the political consciousness to really understand their role in Kenyan politics, those people become so vulnerable that now when we lose our fear, they lose their power. It becomes very practical and can be implemented.
Our problem, I like this. Our problem is those who are willing to pay for goons have endless amounts of money. Okay?
Our money.
We have said 1,000 shillings per goon, 2,000 shillings per goon. What happens when the price tag is 10,000 shillings per goon, 100,000 shillings per goon? Again, those who are willing to pay have endless amounts of uncountable money. How would you stop someone when I tell you you just spend 5 hours in town just causing destruction? I'll pay you 100,000 shillings. Why would somebody say no?
first of all, the struggle is a material condition struggle.
Yes.
It's a struggle for food.
Absolutely.
It's a struggle for housing.
For resources,
it's a
for
struggle
life.
for dignity,
For
really.
life, yes.
So if we are telling you, if you vote for this group of people who are going to advance your material conditions, instead of fighting for this group of people who only advance your material conditions for a day, and what are the even 10,000? What is 10,000? It's kidogo money. It's little money. They cannot afford 100,000 per goon. That will be too many goons. But it's to show them the parallels. So just raising their political consciousness, because that is always lacking. They don't see themselves as players in a big sort of wanaona tu ni mboka ya hiyo siku, but their impact is in a spiral. So it's to raise their political consciousness in a way that they see really first of all, they have a revolutionary potential. Someone who's willing to take up arms is someone with revolutionary potential. They have revolutionary potential because their living conditions are so bad that they will be enticed with 1,000 shillings to risk their lives. That is someone with revolutionary potential. So it's turning their thinking to now let's fight together so our lives become better, not just for a day, but progressively. I was having a conversation with the young men. We had watched a film at MSJC at the beginning of the year. And I asked them, you guys, you're going to be parents. You're not going to be young forever. You've grown up in this community. You've been born in this community. You know that politicians always come to us to hire us for their violence. Is this the kind of life you want to continue in your for your generations? And I could just see how real time their minds go to that kind of reality, and they're like, no. So we also must realize that people do want better, and it is having conversations with each other, building these alliances, building this unity, and not even demonizing. Like me nitaongea nao kama goon. Sitawa demonize, tunaelewa ni material conditions zimekupush hapo. But can we try and reverse this? Because this is what happens when we do not, and when we don't even talk to these people, and when we show them their role in a bigger picture.
Was that part of your motivation? Last year, you launched the National People's Council, right? Motivation towards social justice, rule of law, and human rights. That must come in with, just doing also community building as well, just trying to speak to the youth about the issues going on.
Yeah, the National People's Council is about building the base for alternative political leadership in Kenya, because we realized the alternative political leadership has got to be rooted in communities. When we elect someone, we need to have a People's Council at the grassroots level, at the ward levels, that holds them accountable before they do anything in the community. They need to have a conversation with the People's Council that has been elected by the people of that community, has representatives of young people, women, community elders, community leaders, about maybe 5 or 6 members of the council. And this is inspiration from Kivuda Kibwana. When he was governor in Makueni County, he did a really good job. I have to commend him. Kenyans wanted to make him president, but it's because of how he devolved the power that the people decided. What is your priority right now? The people of Makueni would decide if they wanted a hospital or a school. They would decide if the budget, if it was too much or too little. They would decide who works. Like it was
power with the people.
It was power with the people.
Devolved decision making.
Absolutely, 100%. And this is also something we would love to have replicated the country over, so that now these checks and balances that we do not have, we thought we had with Parliament, but the finance bill taught us that we don't have checks and balances with the Parliament. They could be bought, and you know what happened. Because the Constitution says we could either exercise our power directly or indirectly, the People's Councils are an example of having direct power paired with the indirect power, working together to advance the lived realities of the people you are representing.
How would that come to be?
I don't
In
know.
an ideal world, how would it come to be?
I know it sounds difficult,
It
but
does
isn't.
sound extremely difficult. There's such a large system already in place. How do you disseminate the system from the ground up?
It happened in Makueni. This is to show us that this is very possible. And Kenyans were so happy with how Makueni performed. Now, as a grassroots activist, we have done so many community dialogues. And it was also birthed from that, and also our experience as social justice activists. We had Mathare Social Justice Center, Kayole Community Justice Center, Kibera Justice Center, Dandora, Kamukunji, and we would come together in a sort of a parliament. And I would represent, for example, the issues of the people of Mathare. Somebody else would represent Kayole or Kibera. And then we would see the interconnectedness of all of these issues and debate and discuss about how to deal with them. So this was already a people's council. So from that experience and it was so nice. I never wanted to miss any working group meeting. It was so beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. And it's just young people coming together, united by their resolve for better and for demanding dignity. So learning from this experience, we say, let's devolve it further to communities. And it will be easier in concentrated communities like the informal settlements. But I know also other places people are organized in different formations. So it's like we have community leaders, we have women leaders, we have church leaders, even though church is not a very good example. But what already were co-organized, luckily the people's councils will have the people of that region choose who's going to be who is going to represent the community in the council, trusting that they will fight for their interest and continue to have regular meetings. But it's mostly to have checks and balances, to fight for that social justice and implement it. If we had a people's council, we wouldn't be having stadiums all over na mahospitali hazina dawa na madaktari wana strike. So the people's council is the people exercising their power directly together with the people who are exercising our power indirectly.
Okay.
It's an attempt, and I would invite Kenyans to engage us on that.
I think there's no harm and nobody should have any fear in trying, right? Especially when the status quo isn't working.
Yes.
Right? As we wrap up, maybe you'd like to encourage somebody out there who's thinking about maybe running for MCA, MP, standing up for political office. What would you tell them?
I'd like to tell them to go for it. A lot of people are held back by fear, but if you don't try, how will you know? Also, we have a plan to really work together as young people in 2027. Nobody is going to walk alone. We are going to do this together because it wasn't just protesting. It was a political message. It was saying we want to change the politics of our country. We want to do away with this politics of tribe, politics of division, politics of just empty rhetoric. We want to move to issue-based politics. And we want to realize that in 2027, moving forward. I also want to say that it's time that Kenya has new politics. Time is ripe for us to take back our country as the people of Kenya and advance the cause for humanity. Do not dare give up on this country. Do not lose hope on our struggle. Do not relent and do not surrender, because I've noticed that there's a lot of pro-establishment propaganda that is causing some people to be discouraged or disheartened. But remember who you are, guys. Every time you want to give up, remember what we have been able to do. Remember what great people in our country have shown in moments of despair. The courage, the patriotism that is upon us now to carry. Don't give up on Kenya. Do not be afraid. We must be able to defeat the enemies of the people, the anti-people, and our power. Guys, remember who you are.
Thank you so much. I'll quote you as we end. And you say again, when we lose our fear, they lose their power.
Absolutely.
So it's to attempt to lose our fear at every moment, in everything we do.
Yes.
In fact, never be afraid to fail.
Yes.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Yvonne. Join us again.